Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. We've seen over the past couple months that Palantir has been working with many different companies that have not been disclosed. I've done videos before saying that they were working with Meta or Facebook. They're working with AT&T. They're working with Ernst & Young. And I'll make a whole playlist of it and I'll leave it in the description. But there's a ton of different job descriptions we've basically been able to find out. CVS, Bank of America, Dell Technologies, that Palantir has been listed on the job applications for. As a result of Palantir being listed on the job applications for engineers, data scientists, all different types of roles that have to do with data, it has led to the logical conclusion that if you put two and two together, it is very likely that these companies are recruiting people with skill sets and certifications that understand the Palantir Foundry platform. They're even literally saying experience with Foundry in those job descriptions, because these companies either are working with Palantir or working working with subsidiaries in the company with Palantir. So one of the examples we've seen has been CVS. There was a CVS in Rhode Island that was starting to use Palantir. The job description was specifically for Rhode Island, and that area, I believe it was like sales recruitment data, was looking for a data engineer when it came to Palantir. Those locations are using certain parts of Foundry to optimize and operationalize the data management of those industries within those specific geolocations. Why? Because CVS, for example, is a very big corporation. Not the entire corporation is going to be using Palantir. If they do use Palantir, I mean, that is a lot of revenue for Palantir, right? Because that's a multi-million dollar contract. Now, the entire corporation of CVS is likely using something like an AWS, right? Because all of the parts of CVS, all of the locations have data that needs to be hosted on the cloud, needs to be stored, et cetera, et cetera. But what we've seen from these small locations that are using Palantir is that if these small locations have a good experience with using the platform and using Foundry to make sense of the data within those locations, there is the opportunity for Palantir to penetrate the organization, become super sticky in Rhode Island, and then from Rhode Island you get to Massachusetts, and then California, and then New York, and then Texas and Alabama, and then the entire organization says, we need to use this operating system to completely change our entire business. And that, I believe, is the reason why looking at these job descriptions is so important, because you look at the specific role, the specific need, and why this specific company in this specific location is using a certain product like Palantir. Well, Roblox. Roblox is the next company that Cameron, my good friend on Twitter, I'll leave in the description, he finds a lot of this stuff and he brought it to my attention. Roblox is, for some reason, looking for a Palantir data engineer. Let's get into it. So if we go here on Roblox's career pages, we have San Mateo, California. So this is being done in California. And this is a technical analyst moderation role. So first, let's read a little bit off the job description. Every day, tens of millions of people from around the world come to Roblox to play, learn, work, and socialize in an immersive digital experience created by the community. Our vision, and this is actually important because I don't know what the vision is. This is the first time I'm reading it. So if you're interested in Roblox, it might be important to know what the vision is if you're thinking of it as an investment. We know Kathy Wood is selling off a lot of Palantir because she believes in it. Our vision is to build a platform that enables shared experiences among billions of users. This is what's known as the Metaverse, a persistent space where anyone can do just about anything they can imagine, from anywhere in the world on any device. The breadth of opportunities and the evolving demands for a first-of-its-kind platform ensure that your avenues for growth are always expanding and flexible, which means you as an employee of Roblox will really be able to grow in the company given the Metaverse in and of itself is a growing industry. Join us and you'll usher in a new category of human interaction while solving exceptional challenges that you won't find anywhere else. That's probably true. I mean, solving problems in the Metaverse, and from a technical perspective, philosophical perspective, marketing, sales perspective, that stuff is hard. Obviously, this role is for technical stuff, which is probably, endearing to technical analysts who need to actually, who care about challenges rather than just, optimizing social networks to sell advertising. Our moderation team is dedicated to protecting Roblox users and developers from those who want to do harm online and in real life. That's a mission-oriented role. We are looking for someone to analyze complex technical data to help us determine how bad actors might operate and manifest our platform and what we can do to stop them. You will report to our intelligence manager and our world-class trust and safety team. So this person is going to be using large sets of data to make sense of how to create solutions to make sure that people are safe in the metaverse when they are using Roblox. You will develop collection and tracking techniques to identify new threat actors, understand network protocols, attack life cycles, and actor trade-off, static and dynamic reverse engineer threat activity to identify and classify new samples, support engineers to develop new tools and scripts to update or improve our threat intelligence, conduct pattern and network analysis, help discovery of harmful conflict by using internal data, open source information, and third-party private information. A very technical role for someone who's going to be playing a very important role in the health and safety of the metaverse. You can look at the experiences yourself, but obviously you need to be really good at just like hacking and computer science. And then let's get into the actual recommended resume. So if we Command F right here, Palantir, There we go. Experience with Maltego, Datawalk, Palantir, Analyst Notebook, or similar network analysis tools. So as you can see, Palantir is being utilized as a network analysis tool. Now, if you put 2 and 2 together, you start to recognize, okay, so if they're saying that they want network analyst tools for this very technical moderation data role, and they're putting Palantir on the job description, it's like, well, Roblox is working with Palantir, right? That means they're using Palantir Foundry software, and even if it's in San Mateo, California, and they need someone who knows how to work with Palantir to work within the software, so that's like great. It's like, okay, Palantir is working with Roblox. Now it's not that simple, because I pushed back against my friend Cameron and I asked him this question. What does it mean from a bullet perspective when they mention Palantir with all those other tools? Notice they said experience with Maltego, Datawalk, Palantir, Analyst Notebook, or similar network analyst tools. Does that mean Palantir's experience is good, meaning if you have Palantir experience, that's a good thing, but others is also good, which means that, look, they're happy if you know how to use Palantir, but they're also happy if you know how to use Maltego or Datawalk. So it doesn't really matter if you know how to use Palantir as long as you have the skill sets to be able to use one or the other, which is why they named multiple things. And I think that's a fair question to ask. It's a good pushback against, the obvious thesis of, oh, Palantir, Roblox are working together, because it's like, what if Palantir is just a metaphor for like data analytic platforms? It's not that far off to say that, right? And because it's a metaphor for data analytic platforms, any data analytics platforms that you're skilled at could be a good skill set, because then when you go into the company and you get the job, let's say they're working with some other data analytics platforms. If you know how to work with Palantir, then you definitely know how to work with this one. Or if you know how to work with this one, you know how to work with Palantir. So it's not necessarily that there's a direct connection of them working with Palantir. This was his answer with it, and I thought this was a really good answer by Cameron. People will literally quit over companies using Palantir. You wouldn't associate yourself with them unless absolutely necessary. That was his first argument. And I think that makes a lot of sense. Palantir does not have a good reputation in the corporate world. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why for that. And I'm actually coming out with a video that Palantir is one of the most ESG companies ever. And so you can watch that video, because that kind of shows why I think they should have a better corporate perception. But nonetheless, they don't have a good corporate perception, just worldly perspective, given a lot of the FUD that goes around Palantir. A lot of people think they just sell your data. So his argument here is like, why would they put a tool like Palantir on their website if it has that bad of a perception? Why would they even want to be associated with it if you didn't have to be associated with it? And that's the key thing. If it was just Maltego, Datawalk, Analyst Notebook, as we can go back, well, there you go. You can just name those 3 things. Why do you have to name Palantir? It's not, if Palantir is just similar to all 3 of those, right, and it's just a metaphor in my bear case question, then it doesn't matter. But it's likely not just a metaphor. It likely means a lot more, which is ultimately why it has to be done. He then says, plus, depending on the title, that person may or may not be using Foundry frequently, kind of like the Novartis job listing that he found. The next job posting after he found the Novartis one says they are literally hiring people to implement Foundry in the title. And we can go through that one as well a little bit later on a different video. But when he found the Novartis title, it said looking for people that are skilled in Palantir and all these other tools. Then the next job posting in that same location said, we need someone to implement Foundry, right? So it's like, okay, you can't just say Palantir is being used as a metaphor for data analytics platforms when the company is then issuing jobs within the software that Palantir uses, meaning that they obviously use them. So his argument was he doesn't see Palantir being normalized to the point where it's like, you need to know how to use Snowflake. You need to know how to use AWS. Because Palantir only has like 200 customers, right? They're not, and they still have this whole esoteric, like weird black box type of aura around them. So a company like Roblox that's trying to become like the metaverse dominant player is not going to soil its brand, especially over a role that's about protecting people in the metaverse, if you're associating yourself with a company that is perceived to not protect people, to hurt civil liberties, and to sell and monetize your data. And that's why I think it's absurd, because it's like, if they're hiring someone who works in Palantir over a fundamentally safe, moderated civil liberties type of position, right, to protect you while you're in the metaverse so bad stuff doesn't happen, you have a horrible experience and you're traumatized for life, then it seems like you wouldn't just use it as a metaphor. You would use that term because you're actually looking for someone who knows how to use that platform, because your company might actually be using that platform. Now, do we know that for sure? No. But I think based upon this logic, it is safe to assume it is likely, it is a very potential likelihood that they are either using Palantir or experimenting with using Palantir, and that's why they're hiring people who actually know how to use Palantir. Now, last thing I'm going to say on this, Roblox is the center of the metaverse right now, I think, at least for gaming. There's a couple of other plays. Obviously, you got Facebook in there, but Roblox is the big thing. I mean, just in terms of numbers of users. I believe Palantir has an amazing metaverse play. I'm not going to go super deep into it because I did a whole other video I'll put in the description about why I think Palantir is one of the perfect stock. It's like a secret metaverse stock that no one's thinking about. But the core thesis is that in the metaverse, there is going to be tons of data that is generated. I mean, even look at this position right here. This position is about optimizing data to be able to help people to moderate the experience, right? Looking for someone to analyze complex technical data. A lot of the problems that exist in the metaverse are data problems, whether it comes to moderation and safety of users, or it comes from the literal artificial intelligence that is necessary and machine learning on top of that at the highest of levels to be able to make the metaverse an enjoyable experience and a real experience, which is what it has to be to get people to spend time in the metaverse for it to actually be valuable, 5-6 years from now. That's a data problem. A lot of these things are data problems. And I think Palantir, if it becomes that operating system for companies, the cardiovascular nervous system, as our boy Shyam Sankar says, then for metaverse companies, especially metaverse gaming companies that have to handle complex loads of data, Palantir would be that operating system to make sense of that data, operationalize that data. And then to me, that becomes the sticky software of all these metaverse stocks. If the metaverse TAM is growing and it's the new version of social media and Palantir is at the center of it and not all these other legacy data companies, because Palantir is actually making sense of the data, not just hosting the data in a cloud, then you've got a real chance for Palantir to make a play for the metaverse over the next 5-6 years if the metaverse grows, and for Palantir to be that operating system for a lot of these metaverse companies that need to make sense of data, because the metaverse, to me, is a data problem. So those are my thoughts. Palantir working with Roblox. What do you think? Do you think Palantir is a metaverse stock? Definitely check out that video in the description. I made a video on if Palantir could be playing the metaverse. Also, quick plug, I just launched the Patreon. I hate selling stuff, but trying to support the channel, trying to make this channel financially stable outside of just YouTube ad revenue. So if you want to check it out, please check it out in the description. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Looking forward to reading them. I'll see you in the next one.